in the large city temple in the heart of Cardiff City, essentially Pentecostal church, there is visible to all eyes this verse that we have just read: as many as touched him were made perfectly whole. And that had a double meaning. Those who came to him in prayer, asking for mercy, were made whole in their soul, but also because they were very much into healing, they knew that the power of the Lord was there also to heal the body, and things would happen because they took prayer seriously, and faith they had. We need to be aware that when we are in prayer, we can actually get an electric shock by things happening. Things do happen. We are surrounded by heaven when dealing with the Lord, especially in our Catholic faith, where we have directly access to all the power of the Blessed Trinity in the sacramental sphere. One is pleasantly surprised to see how heaven, as it were, plays with earth and likes to have us close. Yesterday, a proof of that came out of the blue when we had Holy Communion for a little angel who was quite uncontaminated and very well prepared in the ambit of the old rite, where things are done calmly in a God-centered way without anything human interfering. And this unexpected surprise came because the theme was, according to what was happening, precisely giving Holy Communion to a child, still innocent and therefore angelic, the whole world of the angels, and how in this sphere the child is covered in angelic protection and must be kept thus, and how the angels are very much aware of what we're doing. Indeed, it was an angel that came to give those little children, before the time actually, at Fatima, Holy Communion in 1916, and taught them how to worship. The host was suspended in the air, and he was prostrate with his forehead touching the ground, and he taught them prayers, one of which actually talks directly about the real presence, because it talks about the presence in the tabernacles of the earth. And so they were instructed directly by this powerful angel, the angel of Portugal, about what they were doing and what their faith was. But what was my surprise when somebody after the celebration came up to me and said, while you were talking about all this, the angels, I saw, and she was quite clear about it, she saw quite clearly, right behind me, lots of angels. There were little ones, all beaming and bright and white, bright white, in front, and bigger ones behind. Oh, interesting. Heaven is closer to us than we think. Heaven is at our feet in our infancy. Wordsworth already knew it and saw it. But we have more. We have precisely heaven in our chapel. The angels are there, and we can't see them normally, but they are there. And there's a whole cushion of angelic presence before one gets to the tabernacle itself, where the real presence itself is. They are our hidden friends, and they like to have us around, but they're also keen on having us around in the way that they want. We are treading on holy ground, very different from what can be done, for instance, at home watching a live streamed Mass, because although there is a contact with prayer and with the church, it's not the same as being right there amongst the angels and their King. And that King is none other than the one who rules the waves and history. After all, time issued also from his hands as the Alpha and the Omega, and he has seen it all. He created ex nihilo, all that is, and also implanted in the system of creation all the laws of nature. and can juggle with them as he wishes. Indeed, he does so invisibly to us in the sacramental sphere all the time. This is our faith. We notice how Peter is given himself an offer, walk, come, and he does, and it starts to work, and then of course he loses faith, and it starts to unhappen. Why did you doubt? Do we take seriously our faith? The story is told of somewhere in darkest Africa where there was a drought, and there was a clergyman who was keen on getting them all to pray that the Lord would send water. And so he called them all to go to the highest point of the village, a little hill or mountain, and to bombard heaven together, claiming the promise the Lord would hear the prayer of faith of his people. And they went, but as the report came back, only one villager took with him an umbrella. With regard to what we're seeing in this gospel, we see how there is a hint of something else which might go unnoticed. It's this: it all unfolds for one reason. The Lord chose not to be with them when they set off, and for a reason. Even though he had always the beatific vision in virtue of the hypostatic union, he could not but see the Father. Yet in his humanity he opted to carve out times of intimacy and to engage with that vision, with that communion. And he did so at times propitious. He did so, we know, in the early hours. He would get up a great while before dawn and go into a solitary place and there pray. And here we have him going into the night, the heart of the night, until the fourth watch, so it's a long time, where? Apart, a mountain. Now this has been picked up by the monastic centuries. The mountain, the place apart, and the time. In the present Trappist constitutions, there is still clearly an indication that the prayer of the night is central. It is the time of intimacy. That is true on the human level between spouses. It is true also between the soul and its king. And the devil knows it full well. We notice that he has managed to undo that in the last 50 years. Many monastic communities have brought later into the day the rising, ever later, because of excellent reasons, no doubt, but the result is that that intimacy before the day starts has been reduced to a minimum, whereas before it was a long preparation. It's still the case in many monasteries, but not all. And if one looks around the monastic planet in general, it's a huge loss. In practice, what happens is this: one starts off with excellent resolution, but will gain in the evening what one has lost in the early morning and night. But in practice, what happens? Other things come in, and it's not at all the same. Prevention is better than cure. And so it is that when the rocket is well fired, by a long, prolonged moment of intimacy with the Lord on the mount in the night, the day will be contemplative. Rushing into the work of the day without that is quite different. The devil knows it full well. He also knows that the beacon of prayer lit in the night in the monastic world is a nuisance to him, and he will do all to make sure it doesn't happen, or at least if it does, it's reduced to a minimum and made weak. In practice, many a consecrated soul uses the night at the other end, before midnight, to catch up with much be caused up on the internet, or the messaging, or that must be known. They know many things before they go to bed, but their head is full of what they know, and the Lord is an afterthought just before they go to sleep, if we're honest. The main thing is the internet, the television, whatever it is outside the soul, and the soul is not cared for. Some souls are actually woken up at 3 o'clock in the night by their guardian angel, and there's a reason for that. The Lord caused them to make preparation precisely because that's when the demons are very much around. Those who worship them do their thing at that point, the hour of unmercy, satanic masses, black rites, all that goes with them, sacrilege and horror. It's at 3 o'clock at night it happens, that is known. And every month they have to have a certain number of consecrated hosts. They're easier to get now, but still they have to be consecrated hosts, and the demon knows the difference. We know what goes on in these rites. We know also the results. Why are so many suicides at night? Well, the demon knows that if we have monks and nuns awake and lay people adoring for the Blessed Sacrament, it can be in some way a force against that. Otherwise he's quite free to act. The night belongs to God. Let us give it to him. Intimacy with the King who can't get through to a great smoke screen of televised noise.